Vanessa the Crafty Gemini. I post weekly videos right here on my YouTube channel, and in this video we're working on more free motion quilting. So let's jump right into our next video here in my free motion quilting series. Now, if you're joining us new and you have no idea what's going on, make sure that you click right here and that graphic will take you to the full video playlist where you can catch every single video in this series right there for you to watch from beginning to end. In this one, we've already covered the basics of how I set up my machine. I've also covered some basics on starting and stopping your stitching and practicing your straight line stitching. So we're moving on to the next thing. And as I go along with these videos in this free motion quilting series, I'm going to be talking about a few different gadgets and notions and things that I like to use while free motion quilting. So make sure if you want to catch on and learn a little bit more about my favorites, definitely watch the entire series so you can learn a little bit here and there in each video. So in this one, I wanted to talk a little bit about this black mat that you see here. In previous videos, we've talked about the extension table, which I have underneath, but this black mat here is basically a non-stick Teflon sheet that's made for use in the oven. So when you're baking things or you have drippings from a roast or something and it's getting down so it doesn't dirty your oven, this is what they use it for because nothing sticks to it. Now I use it because, again, since it's non-stick, it's a nice slippery surface for me to move my quilt sandwich around, and it allows me to really be able to glide my fabric or my quilt sandwich around with very minimal pressure. You know, you can see, even with one hand, it really glides nicely. And this is a more inexpensive option to some other options that are out there on the market. So if this is something you're interested, make sure that you check the description box below this video, and I'll always have links there on where you can buy the things that I'm featuring in the tutorials. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is this tool here. This is put out by Clover, and it's called a Hera marker. And people use this a lot in hand quilting, big stitch quilting, sashiko quilting, and all it is this tool that has a sharp crease here. It's not sharp to cut you, but it's a really tight, it's plastic, so it's a nice crease here for you to make some crease lines with. So if you are going to be doing some free motion quilting in straight lines, or you kind of just need to section off your quilt blocks or your quilts, this is a great option without having to use something that has ink or any kind of chalk on it. So notice, I'm just going to do another straight line here. This doesn't have anything coming out of it, it's just the creasing part of it. And I'm just going to set up my ruler here and just press down and make a crease. And you can see that that crease shows up nicely, and it's a perfect guide for me to start stitching on. All right, so this is a Hera marker, and the link for this is in the description box below. Now for my quilt sandwich here, you may be noticing that I did a stitching line all the way around. That's just for the purposes of this video, so I don't have any fabric lifting up on the ends for me. You probably won't have this if you have a real size quilt, so just keep that in mind. Now in the last video, I had you all practicing your straight stitches to kind of get a good feel for the speed at which you're pushing the quilt sandwich through the machine. So today, in this video, I wanted to do a little bit more straight line quilting, but instead of just focusing on these vertical lines, we're now also going to be going side to side. But we're not introducing curves just yet. We're still working with straight line stitches, okay? So let me follow my crease line here and just recap a little bit of what we did in the last video. I'm putting my hands in kind of a U shape, and I'm going to gently push the fabric through the machine. So let's do one stitch. And for the video, so it won't take too long, I'm not going to start and stop my stitches like I normally would. So if you want to learn how to do that, make sure that you reference the previous video. I'll stop when I get a little bit close. My stitches look good. Got to keep a nice steady pace as you're pushing it through there, so your stitches don't come out all wonky in different sizes, okay? So that's good for me. Let's just cut this off. We can save time. And there's my other straight line stitch, okay? So now let's do a little bit of working side to side. So one way to do it is with triangles. I'm going to stitch in between these two lines that I have here. And so you can go in and kind of make a little mark. You can even measure it to see exactly where you want your peaks to be. But the idea is I'm going to stitch from this line to this line at an angle, and then from this line back to this line at an angle. And I'm just going to work it back and forth like a zigzag, okay? So let's try that. And it's a little bit hard to work right on the edges, but stop when you get close to the other line, and then we're going to bring it back this way. And when I do free motion quilting, whether it be on this machine or if I'm on my long arm, I don't really tend to mark and measure things too much. If there's an intricate design, then yeah, you really want to mark it. But I kind of like the feel of just freehanding things and having it look a little bit more organic. Now, you probably are wondering why my speed is so high. I have my machine set to about the 50% in speed because I have a speed option here, and that works for me. I get stitches that are the size that I want them to be, so just work with your machine until you get the settings you like. And that's it. You just want to go from one line to the other and try to focus on not going over your lines, kind of like not coloring outside of the lines. Try to just slow down and stop when you get to that line and back and forth. The more you practice those little things, the better you'll get at controlling both your hand movement of the quilt sandwich and the speed at which your machine is going at. You can slow down right before and take one stitch just till I get to the line and back, and one more. Stitch there and then back. All right, so let's cut this out, and you can see what we have here. They're not perfect, they're not the same distance away from each other, but it looks pretty good, and that was without measuring anything. So try to do that at the beginning. I think we can all, sometimes people get too stressed out about marking everything and matching everything perfectly. Just go for it. If you're creating these smaller quilt sandwiches like this is a great way for you to practice your stitches. And then after the fact, you can always go back and look and say, wow, look how much my stitches have improved. My stitch length is a lot more consistent from previous projects. And it's all about learning and growing. So definitely put in the practice and you'll see the difference in how much better your free motion quilting will get, okay? So that's one exercise. I want you to go like this and kind of make these zigzag stitches. Now for this one, we're going to do something a little bit differently. I'm going to skip a row here so it's not too close. But we are actually going to come from the one line over to the next one. I want you to stitch down, trying to follow that previously stitched line. And then you're going to come back across, stitch down on the line, back across, down, and back across like this, okay? And then you're going to do that for one full length of the way. Now this is probably not going to be perfect at all, so it's a good way for you to kind of get yourself outside of that box and try something new, because it's really hard, even for people who have free motion quilted or do custom quilting on their long arms as well. Even if you've done it for years, it's really hard to retrace your lines once you've stitched on them. So just practice. I'm going to swing across to the left. Now remember, if I want the stitches to go to the left, I'm pushing the quilt sandwich to the right, right? I went over the line there, so let's bring it back a little bit. Stitch down. And I just tend to stitch really fast, but definitely slow down a little bit. Let me tell myself to slow down a little bit. So I'll slow down just a hair. I'm going to come across the other way. Stop. Stitch down. Stop. Stitch across the other way. Stop. Down. And you see, you're going to start to get this really cool block look. And try, when you swipe over to the left or the right, try to get those horizontal lines that are going across in between the two lines to be nice and straight. So it's all about control, practicing that control. Cut off here and see what we ended up with. So that is the next one, and I think that looks pretty good. So that's it for this video of my free motion quilting series. I hope that you will give it a try and that you'll try out these different little exercises. Remember, just make your quilt sandwich. You can mark either using your harrow marker or any other fabric marking device. Mark some straight lines. Practice those straight line stitches so you can get nice consistent stitches, and then go back and try these exercises out where you're going from one line to the other, going back and forth in a triangular shape to kind of get a zigzag look, and then go back and try more of this ladder look where you're going across, down, all the way down your strip. So give those a try, and I promise after you're done trying these out on a couple of quilt sandwiches, you'll be prepared to move on to the next exercise. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely take some pictures of your sample quilt sandwiches and upload them to my Facebook page, or you can tag me on Instagram. Use the hashtag CraftyGemini so I can see your works, because I love to see what you're making from my tutorials. And remember, if you're new to this series, you can always click the graphic right here to go to the full video playlist where all my free motion quilting videos will be listed indefinitely. Thanks again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit it with that thumbs up below, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.